Cup of Joe with Grampa Dez. Hey, Craig, how you doing?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. So, thank you for doing this last show
Yeah.
of the year. You being well known as a super party guy. What do you got planned for New Year's Eve?
Let me see. My wife is ill.
Oh no.
I was ill earlier this week, so we're gonna lay low tonight and hope
Okay.
for the best for tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope everything's okay. Just like
Yeah.
a
It's just it. People still get normal sick too. So,
yes. We got to be very clear nowadays, right?
right.
Uh, yeah, but no, that sucks. But at
Yeah.
least a lot of people are spending time at home this year, for obvious reasons, and I do every year, so it's no big deal for me. And I assume it's probably the same for you, or do you guys usually do stuff?
We usually have people over,
Oh,
so
okay,
we're pushing it out one day just to make sure everybody's on the up and up. You know what I mean?
okay, that's a smart move.
Yeah. You can't be too safe.
Yeah,
Well, I guess
so
you can, but
other than just having people over, like, did you have to cancel any plans because of being sick or anything? Or
no. Everything's good.
okay,
Just
good.
like I said, we're just pushing it for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
yeah.
So yeah, so I'm glad you came on. Normally I like to start off the show by, if it's somebody that I know really well or that I've, met in the past or whatever, I'll kind of catch up and say,
Mhm.
like where. And as far as I know, I think we've only actually met face to face once, and that would be Dallas Mania, if I'm not wrong.
Didn't I run into you in Vegas for?
Oh, were you at Double or Nothing?
I was.
Okay,
It
so
was
then there was that too. Okay, so that's the
yeah,
last
well,
time.
there was apparently there was liquor flowing in Las Vegas. Who knew? And
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so you were at the suite party.
yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's a lot of fun for you. Speaking of beverages, I should have told you this. The gimmick on this show is cup of Joe with Grandpa Dez, and I always
Right.
ask people what they're drinking, but I should have told you to have something. I got a Tim Hortons. I assume. Do you have anything there?
I've come unarmed.
Okay, that's all
Yeah.
right. You're not the first, and it's
Yes,
my
I've I've,
fault.
I've, I've had my 2 cup limit for the day,
Oh,
so I'm good.
this is my fourth, and I probably will have another 5. And you can probably hear Emily in the background laughing. So I'm looking behind you there. Are
Yeah.
those Funko Pops?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I told myself I would never ever get into Funko Pops, and then they started making rock musicians Funko Pops.
Oh yeah.
So now I'm up to about 40.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that's this is the newest Pearl Jam set. And then if you're a
Shocking.
fan club member, you are allowed to buy the variant zombie Pearl Jam set as well. So, and I'm a sucker and
Yeah.
will buy things with Pearl Jam's name on it. So there you go.
And then the other things there, is that like a sports card?
So
Sports cards?
McCready, the guitar player for Pearl Jam, every
Yeah.
year he has a charity in town and he'll play the national anthem for the for a Mariners game and then
Okay.
do a giveaway for people that donate. So there's a couple of Mike McCready Mariners bobbleheads and a couple of signed photos. This is kind of my this is my man cave. There's just there's Pearl Jam memorabilia on all 4 walls. I've got a platinum record award from the RIAA, a couple of signed photos. The surfing picture back here is from a show in Hawaii in 1998. And
Wow.
I've got some one of a kind stuff. I'm a little bit of a fan.
Yeah. Anybody that knows you or has heard you more than once is probably aware that
Yeah.
you like Pearl Jam a little bit.
Yeah.
I they're not my favorite band, but I don't mean that in the way to say, like, sometimes people say, oh, that's not my favorite, meaning I hate them.
No,
I'm a fan. I bought 10, like half the world did. Yeah. And probably the only Pearl Jam, CD or tape. I think I bought it twice. I bought it on tape and I bought the CD. So,
I actually bought it the day it came out because I was a fan of Mother Love Bone, their
yeah.
first incarnation, if you will,
Mhm.
and actually saw them live. And so went and picked that up the day it happened. So a lot of people will say they've been a fan since day one. I've literally been a fan since day one.
So when did Mother Love Bone come out? Do you remember off the top of your head? Like
I
like
was in high
92?
school. I was in high school in
Oh, so
1990. I think I
okay.
saw them for the first time, and I
Because
saw their second to last show before Andy passed away. So yeah, it was 1990. I remember being in school when he passed away for sure.
wow.
And then I think it was 91. I saw my first Pearl Jam show.
The reason I asked that is because I want to say that I saw them open for somebody in Winnipeg, because
Yeah.
I remember like the Mother Love Bone, and then I remember when 10 came out, friends of mine that were fans
Mm,
said, hey, remember these guys, and they had this one album, and this album's awesome, and you need to get it, and blah blah blah, and of
mm,
course I waited until they had a couple hits, and then I got it. So
right.
yeah, and I mean Eddie Vedder is amazing, and then I think he did, it was right around the same time that he did the oh, what was the name of that, the side project with the lead singer of Soundgarden that they did,
Temple of the Dog.
Temple of Dog, yeah,
Yeah.
Hunger Strike, right, the big hit.
Right. That,
Yeah.
that actually came out before the Pearl Jam.
Oh, it did.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Just barely. But yeah,
Okay, so it was kind of simultaneous almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like they were, so Soundgarden from Seattle as well, right?
Mhm.
And then Nirvana was really big at that time. So I mean, that
Mhm.
scene there was just crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was 19 when it was all blowing up, and
yeah, I mean that's cool because you would get to go see them probably at smaller venues and before they
yes,
got big. Yeah.
yeah. The first time I saw him was in I think it was about 2,500 seat theater because I wasn't old enough to get into the bars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I saw him at a free show in a park, and yeah, I've seen him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of very first time. I saw Alice in Chains the first time they played Rooster.
Oh, wow.
That was I think that was 1990 when
I
that
forgot
happened.
about
Right after
Alice in
Facelift.
Chains. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're from Seattle too?
Yep.
Oh, I don't know why I didn't know that. Wow. I mean, it shouldn't surprise me. I mean, the music is, I mean, it's got a very distinct sound, right?
Right. It's very
Yeah.
dark. Very
Yeah. But it
heavy.
was the times. I mean, it was basically, it was the evolution of the hair metal, like in a way, like to me anyways, like it's like they kind of, you took that music and you just went in a different direction. And Guns N' Roses to me was like the bridge between like hair metal and grunge. So,
Yeah.
it kind of took you from one to the other.
I was friends of mine had bands in high school, and I wasn't talented, so I carried all their gear.
Oh,
But
wow.
they did lots of gigging, and it was a weird transitional period. But yeah, the hair stuff, the glam, I just like to call it 80s hard rock. I think hair metal is kind of disparaging.
That's probably a bad word, glam, because I mean,
But
there's a lot of bands that would probably take offense to being called glam.
right, but the day like Nevermind came out,
Yeah.
they were like just absolutely killed
Yeah.
anything from the 80s, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was literally they call February 2nd, February 3rd, 1959, the day the music died. And
Yeah,
whenever Nevermind came out, that's the day that heavy metal died.
kind of.
Grunge, yeah, and grunge took over. I mean, and really, like when that era ended, I almost think that in a way, rock music, like I mean, you still got like the Foo Fighters, and you got some good stuff. But I mean, if you look back at like, and I just actually did this, I was watching one of the music channels aired top 10 videos of every year, and as you're going through it, and it started with like 1980. And you get to like 1995, 1996, and it's still like all rock. And then you get to 97, 98. All of a sudden it's pop, it's rap, it's the Spice Girls, and maybe like the odd like rock song. And I mean, literally it went one year to the next. You had like 8 out of the 10 songs were rock songs. The next year there's like 1. And now, you may get like one like really big rock hit every like couple of years. Like Imagine Dragons is,
Sure.
kind of that. And, I mentioned Foo Fighters, and, there's a few others, but I mean, it's not like the predominant music, and it hasn't been for probably at least 20 years.
Yeah, there's if you're looking for like new rock music, it's hard to find, but if you look hard enough, there's some really good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like the Struts.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of a band called Rival Sons, who are not new by any stretch, but they still pump out great music. And so there's some really good stuff out. There's a band out of I think they're out of the Midwest. They're called Dirty Honey.
Okay.
They're very throwback, and it's all very good. So I'm very much, I don't want to say in tune because that makes me sound like I'm trying to. I'm very I'm very keyed up on music.
But I mean, you actually have to seek it out now, as opposed to, like just turning on your radio and you'd hear it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because and that's the thing. Like if you turn on your radio now, you're going to hear classic rock, or you're going to hear, the new stuff, and the new stuff is not going to be rock. I mean, for the most part. I mean, it's a little different here in Canada because I think a lot of our big Canadian bands are still, rock based. I think the Arkells are pretty big, and Arcade Fire and stuff like that. But I mean, we still got the hip. I mean, Drake and Justin Bieber and The Weeknd, and actually, I like The Weeknd. A lot of his stuff is good. I mean, it's not rock at all, but it's not probably what you think it is. It's actually good songs.
Yeah, good music is good music. I don't care
exactly.
What it is.
Yeah, like that's why I think like if you hear, and I actually just listened to a show today. I don't know if you know. I don't think you know him, David Lovell. He co-hosted one of the shows a couple months ago. He's from England, and he does a music show on Facebook.
Okay.
And it's free. Like, so he plays music, and I don't know how he gets away with it because he plays commercial music, but he's in England, so maybe they have different rules over there. But he did a all request cover show today. And so I listened to it this morning, and what's cool is you're hearing all these songs, but you're hearing them differently. And you're hearing them from artists that you wouldn't have expected to do these songs. And so to hear like a band that you really like doing a song that maybe you didn't hear, but is a really good song, it proves that a good song is a good song. Because, for instance, like the one that stuck out to me, and I think I'd heard it before, but not in a while, Jolene by the White Stripes.
Okay.
So maybe you're not a country fan, but you like the White Stripes.
Sure.
So you listen to them do Jolene and you realize, wow, that's a great song. And my favorite band is a band called Moxie Fruvis. They're a Canadian band. And my request on David's show was a song called Gotta Get a Message to You by the Bee Gees. And they do it, and it's an a cappella version, and it's really cool. So there was all kinds of stuff on this show.
Have you heard the Foo Fighters doing the DGs, the Dave Grohl's? And it's,
no.
Yeah, it's like I think it's a 5-song EP, and it's all Bee Gees covers.
Oh my goodness, I've not heard that, but I'm definitely gonna. I'm probably gonna buy that. David actually, he does every Monday. He does what he calls a twofer, and it's two artists, and he has a wheel of musicians, and it can pick up anything randomly. So this week the Foo Fighters were one of the choices. The other one was Carole King, and so I mean, all the Foo Fighters songs. So it was actually, it wasn't Foo Fighters, it was Dave Grohl. So you could do Foo Fighters or Nirvana or Dave Grohl single stuff. But I never heard of the DGs, and nobody requested those. So I am definitely going to seek that out and listen to it because I love the Bee Gees. Like I just absolutely love the Bee Gees.
Nice.
So yeah. So I'm glad we kind of transitioned into music. I just kind of started there. And again, when I talked to you about this, I said, I never know where the conversation is going to go. Fair. But one of the things I did kind of in the back of my head want to ask you about, and given, that we started talking about music, now you, as people that listen to you're a God-fearing man.
I am.
And so when you were growing up and you talked about going to like see bands and stuff, and were you going to church as a kid as well? Is this okay? So did you? I
like to refer to myself as I was a drugged kid. I was drugged to church.
Okay, yeah, yeah, and I'm
So,
the same. I'm the same. I grew up. I started, my parents started. We started probably when I was 6 years old, and I went to the same church until I was almost 40, and then we
mhm,
switched churches at that point for our own reasons. But the reason I was asking is because there was a period of time in the late '80s, and you're around the same age as me. I think you're a couple of years younger, but there was like if you were listening to, I'll use a term here that you don't hear a lot anymore, but you probably are familiar with it, secular music.
yes.
You had a conflict, like an internal conflict about it
Mhm,
because you had pressure telling you shouldn't be listening to that music.
absolutely.
And so that was something you had to deal with.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I grew up Baptist. I'm still a Baptist,
Okay. Okay.
and it was drilled into my head that it was basically hymns or nothing. And
Oh,
so, and it was like you can't even listen to like contemporary Christian music because
oh, wow.
that's not
Okay.
okay. So I remember my dad finding a Striper album
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
getting very upset. Like who are these girls? And it's like,
I
Dad,
had
that's a Christian band. He's like, oh, okay, whatever.
and the
Yeah,
to hell with the devil, like
yeah.
you know.
So,
Yeah.
at some point, I um, I don't want to call it hypocrisy. It's just like a standard that the
Hmm.
church has.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't want to get way into the weeds on this because
That's fair. That's fair.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place to talk about stuff, and this is fine. But I would never do this on Brian's show.
No, 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 no.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
and I'll tell you, if you're interested, I think it was last weekend, 2 shows in a row. I had people that work. One was a pastor, and one is a guy that works for a faith-based church, like in the Midwest, where he does PowerPoints and stuff for like 20 different churches. So we
Okay.
actually talked like a lot about stuff like this
Okay.
on those shows. So you might want to check those out. And they're wrestling fans as well. So we
Cool.
did talk a little bit of wrestling. But
So at some point in my life, I had to figure out,
yeah.
okay, well, it's okay to watch some movies,
Hmm.
and there's some movies that are bad, and there's some movies that are good, and there's some television shows that we as Christians are allowed to watch, and there's some that aren't. So I, being a rational thinker, well, maybe there's some music that we can listen to that
Yeah.
and maybe some we shouldn't. And so I don't there's some music that I will completely stay away from because it offends me as a Christian.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't my mom still kind of gives me a hard time because I'm almost 50 and I'm still going to concerts and whatnot. But it is what it is. I think people have softened up on the whole, like you said, secular music,
Yeah.
and it's just like under the umbrella of entertainment. So
Sure.
if some entertainment's okay and some entertainment's not, then I think we should put music in there as well, because some of this stuff drilled into my head when I was a kid, about Kiss and bands like
Queen.
that.
Queen.
Looking back at them, it's like, okay, well, Kiss is nothing like Slipknot.
Right.
Kiss
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
nothing like Manson. So maybe it's more tongue in cheek than evil.
Or, and again, it's entertainment.
Right.
Like I remember my aunt was, and my aunt was a really good influence on me. And, there's certain parts of my life where I wouldn't have made it through without her guidance. But she also drilled some of that stuff into my head. And I remember like she gave me like these printouts, and she hand wrote stuff for me, and all about these different songs that, this is why you shouldn't listen to this. This is why you shouldn't listen to that. And, something like Bohemian Rhapsody. And, and it's talking about, there's a line in there, Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me. And that's a satanic song. You can't listen to that.
Right.
And, and literally like, so they just pick out all these different songs. Under the Bridge by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's about shooting up heroin. You can't listen to that. And so there's a ton of these, right? So to this day, it's drilled into my head when I hear these songs. And some songs that you wouldn't even expect. There's a Bridge Over Troubled Water. It was another one that I wasn't allowed to listen to, And it's funny because my mom, who, you know, was also Christian, but she kind of, you know, slid away, you know, for a while, but, you know, she always considered herself a Christian. But that was her favorite song. And she used to tell me when she was in bad times, she
Mm-hmm.
would hear that song and it was Jesus speaking to her. And then her
Yeah.
sister, my aunt, would tell her, no, that's the devil talking to you and trying to make you think he's Jesus. You know, like it's, you know what, if it got her through, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really care. You know, like, I don't think it was God. I don't think it was the devil. I think she was listening to music and it spoke to her. You know?
That's so funny because there's so many places in the Bible where God, you know, called the rocks to cry out.
Yep.
So if he can use rocks, why can't he use music?
Well, and really, it was the Holy Spirit talking to her. You know,
Sure.
like you know, and speaking to her in some way. So you mentioned Striper, and I kind of just clicked in my head. What other Christian song like bands did you listen to? Do you remember?
Oh gosh.
Whiteheart. Did you ever listen to them?
Okay, that was one of them. There was
Petra.
Petra.
Yeah.
And that was kind of where I stopped. Later on, like
That'd be about the same for me.
Later on, it was like my wife was like into Third Day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And some, you know, stuff like that. And that's fine.
Newsboys.
Not so much.
Not really your style, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Not that they're horrible, just
yeah,
not my thing. But yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't listen to it if it was secular either. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, if it's good music, it's good music. Like,
right.
you're gonna listen to it, and again, you're gonna use your own discretion. I mean, there was a few. Oh, there's one I was trying to think of. That was like an alternative kind of, even some rap stuff. There was a Christian rap guy, T-Bone, in the late 90s, early 2000s. I was really into that for a little while. POD.
Yes, I've seen them 3 times.
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
They played with a band out of Sweden, and they were fantastic.
Wow.
And I can't remember their name right now. Gosh, they were good.
Toby Mack was another one. Was he? I think they were around the same time, and he was part of Newsboys, but he was a little harder, you know, a little more of an edge. But he was Christian as well. Yeah, like I had a buddy. His name in high school was Dave, and he tuned me into a lot of this like really hardcore Christian stuff. You know,
good.
Yes, yeah, that's another one. Yeah. I didn't really like it that much. But I mean, you know, the Striper, and you know, that was about as hard as I liked, you know, for my style, you know. I was actually probably more into like, I'm way more like, in terms of all my musical tastes, like I'm way more kind of middle of the road. Like if it's popular, if it gets played on the radio, then I'm probably into it. But I mean, I'm not specifically into any genre of music. So if it's country, if it's a popular country song, I probably like it. If it's an obscure country song, I probably don't. So, you know, and I'm kind of the same way with just about everything. I notice your Twitter handle is, you know, directly from a country song. So, or you're not your handle, but your what do they call that? The byline? Yeah. Or no, that's Tom Petty. That's not country. Yeah, that's Tom. That's
Tom. Got a country soul, I guess. I don't know.
He does, yeah. I mean, he could have been a country guy.
Sure.
So you like Tom Petty too, obviously.
Love Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Neil Young.
Oh yeah,
Canadian
boy.
Songwriter.
Yeah.
One of the guys I really love is Ben Harper.
Oh yeah. Ben Folds 5.
No, different.
Ben Harper. Not the same guy? Okay.
No,
for some reason I thought Ben. Okay, so
Ben Harper is a African American man, and he
totally
plays slide guitar.
Oh wow!
He has a couple of different backing bands. There's one called the Innocent Criminals, and it goes. He's kind of like he'll do anything from R&B to heavy alternative kind of.
Oh wow!
And there's just a lot of him and an acoustic guitar and bearing his soul. And so he's had a couple of different projects. One called Ben Harper and the Relentless Seven. There was he did an album with one of the Beatles kids, George Harrison's kid. It was called Sisters of Mercy. So there's some good stuff there.
I've written down 4 artists now that I have to check out.
Okay.
The Struts, the Rival Sons, the DGs, and Ben Harper.
So might as well add Richie Kotzen to that list.
Richie Kotzen, okay.
He reminds me a lot of Prince, but with a harder edge.
I love Prince.
So he'll do anything from R&B to straight up metal. He was a shred guitar in the early 90s. He started playing with Poison when they kicked CC DeVille out.
Okay, I got one for you.
Okay.
Have you heard of the Sheepdogs?
No.
Okay, Google it and listen to it. I think from all these bands you're describing, I think you'll like them. They're a Canadian band out of Saskatoon. I think if you look at their picture, you'll just know that you'll like them.
Okay.
As
I've said before, I'm gonna write that down.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, you haven't really done any of those of your famous quips. You usually have at least one on every show that just has me howling. Yeah. Oh, and that's it. And what makes it work is when Bryan and Vinny, they no sell it, and because Bryan doesn't get it. Bryan doesn't get it, and Vinny probably just didn't hear it. So, but
it's hard to be heard when somebody's always talking.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I just did a show 2 nights ago, and it was 4 of us. It was an AEW award show, and so yeah, it's tough when there's 4, to get your thoughts in. It's a little easier with video because you can see,
right.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it was video, so we're just about out of time. I told you I'd keep you 20 to 30 minutes, but the time just flies on these things. I'm telling you. So I definitely want to have you back on because I feel like we just touched the surface. We didn't even talk about wrestling. Which is fine. I literally had no intention of talking about wrestling. I'm supposed to have Dave on at some point, and I told him, I said, we're not talking any wrestling, so be prepared.
What's he going to talk about?
I'm sure he's got other interests.
I remember he was on Ed's show one time.
Oh, really?
I just flat out asked him, I said, so Dave, what do you do in your free time? And there was a long, awkward pause. And he said, well, I like movies.
Yeah, he's trying to compute what exactly is free time. Well, what I want to ask him about, and this is actually, I'm going to ask you the same question. Okay. I don't know what your answer is going to be, but he mentioned a couple of, maybe 2 months ago, that he was going to a Beach Boys concert.
Okay.
And I want to ask him what his favorite Beach Boys song is.
Oh, wow.
So I want to ask you the same thing because I have a theory about people's answer to that question.
Man, that's tough. I'm gonna have to really think about that. I'm not a huge Beach Boys on the spot. Fair enough. Sounds, for sure.
Yeah.
Quick story. When I met my wife, I told her we had been together maybe a month, and I said, "Hey, I've got tickets to a concert. Will you go with me?" And she goes, "Oh, that'll be fun." And so we went and saw Def Leppard in the round.
Oh, wow.
And we were literally on the railing, but there was lots of railing to be had. So I would say we were front row, but anyway. And so it was a great time. We had a great time. And so on the drive home, I asked her, I said, so you said you had concert tickets to something else and you wanted to take me. What are we going to go see? And she said, the Beach Boys.
Oh, wow.
And so I've seen the Beach Boys, and I wish I could say I had a really good time.
Oh, you didn't?
I had a time. I'll tell you that.
Hey, you're with your wife, so.
My girlfriend at the time.
Oh, your girl. Well, I mean, she's your wife now.
Weird to think about, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
My wife and I, we haven't gone to many concerts, but we've seen, believe it or not, we've seen the Black Eyed Peas 3 times. They were so good the first time that we made a point of seeing them two more times.
Okay.
We've seen Tom Cochran a couple times.
Okay.
Who's awesome Canadian artist. Red Rider was his band. Yeah. And he had the big hit Life is a Highway, but he had he did an hour set and we knew every single song. And he was the opener. And Guns N' Roses we've seen a bunch of times. That's still the best concert I've ever seen to this day. Was in 1989. They did in the middle of their set, they did a mini acoustic set. They put out couches on the stage, and they had strippers bring them out pizza.
Oh.
And while they were playing, it was just awesome. And I was in the stands, but it was right next to the stage, and we were close enough that I could read the words on Axl's monitor.
Wow.
And he needed the words. He was in rough shape, but it was the best show, best concert, best big event concert I've ever been to. The best actual concert I've been to is a small venue for Moxie Fruitus, which is my favorite band. And if you see your favorite band in a small venue, that's your favorite concert every time.
Two things. I saw Guns N' Roses. They opened for Iron Maiden in 1988.
Oh, wow.
Not hardly anybody knew who they were.
Mm-hmm.
I went out and got their Like a Suicide EP at the time, and kind of didn't see him again until I went with Sean like 3-4 years ago when they were in Seattle.
They were still good.
They were fantastic.
Yeah,
they were so good on that they're still on it, the reunion tour.
Yeah.
I got to see Pearl Jam in 2004. Yeah, 2004. I'm looking at my posters. 2004, they played a little club called the Showbox, downtown Seattle. It's a 1,500 capacity club. The tickets sold out immediately. And I wasn't able to get tickets, and I was kind of bummed. And this kid at work, he said, "Hey, man, what's the matter with you?" I said, "Well, I was trying to get tickets, see my favorite band. They're playing in this little club." And he goes, "What club are they playing at?" I said, "It's the Showbox." And he goes, "Oh, my uncle works security there."
Oh.
I said, "Come again?" And he goes, "Yeah, my uncle works security." He said, "Any chance he could, I don't know." And the kid was like, I think he was 17 at the time. And he goes, "Yeah, let me reach out to him." So I waited like 2 weeks before we heard anything. And he goes, "Yes, my uncle can get us in, but it's got to be on the down low, and he wants paid." I was like, "Okay, well, how much does he want paid?" And it wasn't astronomical. I said, I'm in. And so he snuck his underage nephew in and myself into a show that we weren't supposed to be at, and it was the coolest thing.
Awesome.
Being in a small club. I also saw Prince in that club. He did I think he did 4 nights, 2 shows a night, and the tickets were $250. It was massively expensive. But seeing Prince in a 1,500 seat venue with, oh my gosh.
I can't even imagine. It's one of my great regrets is not having seen him live.
He was so good.
Yeah. And he was here. He did a show at a small venue here in Winnipeg, and it was the same kind of thing. Probably the same tour you're talking about.
Probably.
And I just, at the time, I thought, I'll see him next time,
right.
Because you never know. So
I actually went with Junior Horseman and Vinny to that.
Yeah, I remember him talking.
I was like, it's going to be $250, and it was like, but you know what? At the end of the day, it was worth it.
Yeah, no, and if I could go back in time, I would definitely go. So you know what? We're gonna wrap it up. Did you come up with a Beach Boys song? If you didn't, that's fine. That's fine. So for me, it's Sloop John B. But then you ask me tomorrow, I might give you a different answer.
Sure.
But my reason for asking is if somebody says Kokomo or Good Vibrations or Surfing USA, they're probably not a real cool person. And so we had a list of about 10 songs that were okay. If you say this song, then you're a cool person. And the fact that you mentioned Pet Sounds, I think we're safe. So
fantastic.
Yeah. All right. So that's going to do it. Thanks, Craig, for coming on. And I definitely want to have you back again, maybe in a few months. Sure. So for Craig, I'm Grampa Dez, and this has been Cup of Joe with Grampa Dez.